Welcome back to the Parts Avatar podcast. We are on episode 9.
9.
9.
We're getting there.
No
there.
episode.
Almost 2 digits.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
And this all started as just a casual, hey, let's do this on the weekend, and now it like takes up every weekend. So
well, the big thing here is we have another guest. Today we
Hello,
have Mr. Greg Pona.
wait,
Witamy.
Greg Pona?
Yep.
Like Alex Pona. Are you related?
Yes, we are.
Oh,
okay. I didn't realize that.
Well, I knew this
This
because
whole time I was talking to him, I didn't even realize they were related.
Yeah.
it's a funny story. I know 3 Ponas, met them all the same day at the same time. So
Yeah. I think that story, it'd be cooler if there was less vulgarity in it, but we can't say it on the
You
podcast.
can. Yeah, we can say
Well,
the story.
we can say the story, but maybe we'll leave it for once we have the trifecta, because Arthur wants to come
Yeah.
on the podcast too.
Okay.
So I think once we have all 3 of the Ponas,
that would be a good time to say it.
that would be the perfect time to say
All
it.
3 of the Ponas.
Yeah, we
So we're gonna
gotta
have
catch
5
them all.
people on the podcast. We'll have Arthur on, and then we'll have all of them back as a renewal together. Once we have our big
it won't even
podcast
be
set up.
me and Tony on it. It'll just be them 3, the 3
Yeah.
Ponas.
It'll be without us.
It'll be not the Parts Avatar podcast. It'll be the
The
Pona on
podcast.
podcast.
Yeah.
We are going to need a bigger couch.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
That was a Jaws reference.
So give us a little introduction about yourself, Greg.
All right. So
You like cars, right?
Love cars.
Okay, good.
My name's Greg Pona. Big car guy. Grew up, just a normal guy. Liked sports, liked being outside. You enter college, get a little bit more freedom, buy your first car, and that's, I think, where a lot of car guys start their journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say at least 50% start their journey that way. And I'd say the other 50% started from childhood, loving cars, I feel.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was one of those.
It's usually freedom or born into it.
Yeah.
As soon as you get your first real paycheck and you're like, oh, I want to get a car and stop taking the city bus. That's one way.
Yeah.
And then there's dad is teaching you from the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I don't think it's
That's
mom.
huge, too.
Usually it's not mom teaching you how to work on cars.
Well, I mean,
maybe.
if it comes from TV shows.
Yeah, that's another way too. That was me.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was a mix
Yeah.
of TV shows and a mix of getting coloring books of cars and collections of
Coloring
cars.
books of cars. That's interesting.
Mighty Machines.
Oh,
Oh,
Uh,
I mean, I
Mighty
had all of
Machines.
them, but I didn't actually get
There's
into
some
cars
overlap
until
there.
after.
I think I've said my thing. For me, it started, and this is why I love E36s. I vividly, as a child, got a coloring book of all these European cars, and my favorite one was the E36. It was a 4-door, and that's
Okay.
why I like 4 doors. So,
Mm.
yes, sir.
Makes sense.
I definitely found my source of car love from the Need for Speed Most Wanted E36. The
Interesting.
blue and silver one,
Oh, yeah.
the M3.
Yeah,
That was gorgeous.
it was. It
Actually,
was.
I
that's
never
a good
truly
point.
got into cars, though, but yeah.
Because
Anyway,
all
you're saying-
those Need for Speed games, the Midnight Clubs, the Gran Turismos, yeah, you start that at a young age.
Yeah,
you do.
yeah.
You do. But what we're here to talk about is maybe a little bit more somber topic. Greg,
Somber.
somber topic. We it's
We'll
a
get
sad
to it.
topic
I
because
forgot the tissues.
sadly Greg has a love for Audi All Roads.
I
and,
do.
Oh.
And
I
we
do,
have we
very much
brought him
so.
here to discuss why he would do this to himself. Why? Where did your love for All Roads start, and why did you buy an All Road? Or actually, All Roads.
All roads, plural, yes. So I guess I'll give some backstory. All Roads are known as one of the most, if not the most reliable cars sold in modern times. They had many issues that plagued them, and as a result, many owners, after a very short term, would pawn them off to the young car guys that know nothing about them
Yep.
for a very cheap price, lucrative price. And that was me. Luckily, I did know what I was getting myself into, but I was one of the guys that bought an All Road for very cheap, and I thrive with them. So, my All Road history, I own my third All Road currently. My all-road life started in college. My very first car was a 99 Audi A6, so C5 Audi A6 sedan, 2.8 liter, naturally aspirated V6. I enjoyed it, but I only had it about a month.
Oh.
And that's because it was sedan. And my lifestyle is very athletic. I go mountain biking a lot. I've always got gear in the back of the car. Being a car guy, a set of tires doesn't fit in a sedan very well at all.
Yeah.
So I always had the all-road in mind. Even before I bought the A6, I had the all-road in mind. And the all-road was cool to me because it was a station wagon, which not a lot of people have.
No.
It's got a bi-turbo 2.7 liter V6, which came as standard in that car. And it also came in the Audi S4. And the S4 is like, wow.
Yeah.
That's something. Quattro all-wheel drive.
Yep.
So for your winter shenanigans,
Yep.
it's a good system to have. But my personality, I'm the kind of guy that likes to have what other people don't. And the all-road fits that genre real well because it has height adjustable air suspension.
It does.
From the factory in 2004.
Yeah. Which is also one of the biggest failure points on those cars, if I'm not wrong, because that air suspension tends to go out quite quickly.
It does. But it depends what your definition of quickly is. So many cars up until 2004 had some sort of air suspension as an option.
Yeah.
Most common, it was air shocks.
Yeah.
Hydraulic shocks that have an airbag built into them that you can adjust the ride height.
Yeah.
The all-road has 4-corner height adjustable air suspension. And how that works is you have your hydraulic shock in the middle and an airbag surrounding it. And you press a button on the dashboard and you can raise or lower the car. And for 200,000 kilometers, 8 years, that system works well.
Okay.
Once that rubber gets old, it starts to leak air. And that's when you see the cars
sagging down,
sagging and resting on the bump stops. Now, that's not an issue that only plagues all roads. I'm sure you've seen Range Rovers on the bump stops.
Mercedes. S-classes, MLs,
Navigators.
GLs. Oh, Navigators, correct.
But Audi had that in 2004. Let me rephrase that. They started producing the all-road in 2001. So that's when they started with that system. Now, I'm not enough of a car guy to know the history of all the cars.
Yeah.
But to my mind, I can't think of another car that had 4-corner height adjustable air suspension in 2001.
There was a few cars, actually dating even way earlier than that. It was obviously hydraulic suspension, 4-corner was, Citroën. They were early pioneers of that. And I think Cadillac had experimented with air suspension, but I'm not sure if it was 4-corner.
And so the reason I bring this up is, to my knowledge, Audi All Road was one of the first models that a lot of people bought that came to market. And so they were the pioneers. They were, the guinea pigs. And they noticed that this was happening after X amount of years, X amount of kilometers. But with, everything in a car, it all has a service life, whether it's bushings, O-rings, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one of the major failing points of the all-road, is that after, roughly 8 years, 200,000 kilometers, this air suspension would fail and it would, drop.
Yeah.
And
car would down and sag, yeah.
it's a very expensive system to replace.
Yeah.
Each corner, the shock is, in today's money, about $800 Canadian.
Each shock, yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Each airbag is, depending where you find it, roughly 300 Canadian. So,
that's quite an expensive fix.
After 8 years, 200,000 kilometers, you have to spend that money to bring it back up to what it was like when it left the showroom floor, which for a lot of people is too much money.
Yeah.
And they get rid of the car at that point. That's one of the reasons why the car received a bad rap.
One of many, though.
One. Now, as people get older, they kind of realize that German vehicles in general, you get what you put into them.
Yeah.
You know, a German vehicle rides generally better than, let's say, an American vehicle. It lasts longer in some cases, but
Yes.
it does require more maintenance.
You need to take care of them.
Yes.
Correct. And that is the same with all roads. In order to keep it at the level it was designed, you have to put more money into it. And this is one of the spots. So if you buy an all road and expect to not be able to put anything into it, that's not the car for you.
You bought the wrong car.
But I knew that I would have to do that.
So it's high maintenance.
Yes, to some extent.
Okay.
So when I bought my very first all road in college, the air suspension was leaking. After 3 days or so, if the car sat on the driveway, it would be on the bump stops.
Mm-hmm.
So I forked up the money I bought all 4 shocks, OEM, new, and I bought all 4 air springs, new.
That's crazy to afford in college.
Yeah,
Like most students aren't really
That's
working
like-
full-time jobs.
I can almost imagine that was more than the car was worth almost.
yes, it was.
100%.
Yes.
Yep. So
100%.
at that point, it might not have made sense.
Well,
But
what did you pay for it originally?
my original all road I bought for $1,800.
Oh my gosh.
It was a it was a navy blue automatic 2.7,
Yeah.
fully running and driving. It had one warning light on the dashboard, an engine light for a failing torque converter, which I'll get to in a sec.
Okay.
But the air suspension was working, and I drove that for about a year, and the air suspension worked, but it sagged. So I decided, you know what? I know I'm gonna want this car for a long time.
Yeah.
I forked up the money, bought new suspension. And eventually the transmission died in that car. But being a car guy, I'm handy. I can install parts myself. I took all the brand new suspension off that car and I put it on the second all road I bought.
Nice.
So now the second car I bought has brand new suspension in terms of
Perfect.
struts.
Yes.
I am on my third all road. Guess what suspension I have on the third all road?
No way.
That original suspension you
That
bought.
suspension I bought
Oh
on my
my
first all
gosh.
road.
So that's a good investment then. I mean,
As long as you keep buying all
if
roads.
you keep buying all roads and you know how to swap everything on them.
And the air springs, so you could buy OEM. I chose not to. I chose to buy aftermarket. The brand is called R Not. I'm sure many people have heard of that brand.
Yep.
And they have a lifetime guarantee on
Oh.
their air springs.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
So
Lifetime guarantee. Wow.
I am not good with dates. I don't know how long I've had the suspension. It's 8 to 10 years. But when the time comes that my air springs leak,
They'll be getting a nice call from you.
I get all new air springs, hassle free.
Do they know if
No
they? Do you know if they change that policy though? Like, because sometimes companies offer that at first, and then they.
No,
just
it's almost like Raceland. That's my air suspension right now. Currently, I bought Raceland because they had lifetime warranty, and I've already had 5 rear struts replaced. They just keep sending me them, and one of the top hats, the rubber at the top hats, started wearing out. So I called them and I was like, "Hey, the top hats are wearing out. I'm starting to hear a slight knocking, so I'd rather do it before it goes bad." I'm like, "Yeah, not a problem." So just a quick question. Do you want us to send you just the top hats, or do you just want a whole new strut? And I was like, whole new strut? They're like, "Sure. We'll send you 2 brand new front struts, because if one side is knocking, the other side will start knocking soon. And yeah, you have 21 days to send us the old ones back, and that's it."
unlimited
Yeah.
strut hack right there.
So,
Life hack.
So Raceland, we love you,
Shout out.
or at least I do. Maybe Parts Avatar doesn't yet, but I'm quite happy with the
I don't
service
know
I've had.
anything about them. So.
On your point though, what often happens is if a company does decide to change their policy, if you purchased a product under that policy, you're grandfathered in.
Yeah.
So that
Oh.
policy will continue to apply to you. When they change it, that change applies to new customers.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's a little thing that's happening right now with that law, because Public Mobile is trying to go away from their old reward system, because they basically had a referral system. So the more people refer, you would get like $3 per month, right? If the person were there. There's some people that have referred over 100 people, and their accounts
Free
had
cell
like,
phone bill.
oh yeah, more than a free cell phone bill. They were racking up. I had a buddy
They were
at BlackBerry.
profiting.
Yeah, he had $2,800 in credit.
What?
Oh my goodness.
Because his phone plan was only like $40 per month,
Yeah.
but he had like
The referral.
the referral was coming in every month, and it was just getting bigger and bigger because he was paying off his bill, but it was still more than he was paying, right?
That's crazy.
So now people are quite mad because they're taking away the program. And then they're like, oh, what credits you'll have will be there. But now, like, the point system is like you maxed out at this and maxed out at that, right?
That's annoying.
And people are like lobbying against it because it's like, hey, we're grandfathered in. You can't, because at first they said, oh, yeah, people with the old point system, don't worry. As long as you don't get a new plan, you stay with your old plan, your thing won't change, right? But now they're like, no, everyone's coming over, which is.
I could see them trying to forcefully put somebody into a different plan, though, just to take away that grandfathered policy.
Yeah, yeah. Which that's more understandable, right?
Yeah.
Because then, hey, you're swapping a plan. That gives them precedent to take away the thing.
Yeah.
But people like
if you're mindful and keep the same plan.
They could just take that plan though and just destroy it and then be like, "Oh, you're on a new plan now."
They can't do that though.
No?
Because you're locked into it. And the thing with public though, I know we've gone on a tangent here, is back when they came out, there was a plan. It was $30 for 90 days, and you had like for those 90 days you had like I think 2.5 gigs of data, but unlimited talk and text, which is really cheap if you don't use your phone a lot. For 90 days, $30, crazy. But that's another story. Going back to your All Road, so your current All Road has that original suspension that you bought.
It does, yeah. So back to the All Road reliability topic. That was the biggest knock on the All Roads, is the suspension.
It is,
And,
yes.
You know, different people will say different things, but I can summarize an All Road reliability in 3 parts. And the suspension is one part and the biggest one.
Mm-hmm.
The second is the transmission. So the
Okay.
All Road you could purchase with 2 transmissions. The standard was an automatic, 5-speed. And the second was a 6-speed standard. By
Manual.
far in Canada, the most common was the automatic.
Mhm.
And that transmission was problematic because of his torque converter.
Correct.
Similar timing to the air suspension, around 200,000 kilometers, a seal in the torque converter would fail and it would throw an engine light and eventually your transmission, fails.
But that wasn't uncommon for Audi. That was across the board for any vague products, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, you're correct. And so that added to the unreliability,
aspect of it.
Aspect.
The
of the
All
All
Road.
Road.
Yeah. But you would say it's primarily a good car then?
Well, let him get to point number 3.
Yeah. So the workaround for the air suspension was, when it comes time, purchase new air suspension. You're good for 8 years, 200,000 K.
Yeah.
The workaround for the transmission, buy the stick shift, which my first All Road was automatic. Transmission failed on my way to an exam in college.
Wonderful timing.
Right out of my neighborhood, shifted into second, poof.
Yep. That's exactly what
My
happens in them.
gosh.
It's always second gear in the
Yep.
VW ones. Yep.
Yep. So I said, forget it. I'm getting a stick shift.
And
Bought
that's when you swap the the suspension.
Yep.
Yep. So
Okay.
I bought a second All Road, same year, 2004, 6-speed manual, and the transmissions have been excellent since. Never had any issues. That's the 01E transmission, which a lot of Audi guys use for high horsepower builds because it's a very robust transmission.
Yeah.
And so that solves issue number 2. Now, issue number 3 is the turbos. Being a bi-turbo V6, it's got 2. They're the same size turbos, and they are jam-packed at the back of the engine, between the engine and the firewall. They have heat shields all around them. The pre-cat is right there close to it. Very hot surroundings. And those turbos fail also at around 200,000 kilometers. And so that's the main reason why the All Roads have a bad rap, is because they all got to that point and everything
Everything
failed at
gone
once.
at once.
boy.
Yeah.
Now, being a car guy,
That's a hefty bill.
especially with a European car, one of the first things guys like us do, change the exhaust,
Yep.
slap a tune on it,
Yep.
and
Destroy your turbos.
Bob's your uncle. But that actually helps
Bob's your uncle.
the 2.7s, because The exhaust flows a lot faster,
Yep.
a lot easier, I mean.
Yep.
The turbos stay cooler.
Yes.
And at the same time, you can, alter the tune a little bit. I'm not very good with tuning. However, I've heard that if you add slightly more fuel to the tune, it lowers the EGTs
Yep.
slightly. So
Exhaust gas temperatures.
yes.
Oh, okay.
So that helps preserve your turbo life.
Yeah. Because it's running cooler, right?
Yes. And the enemy of engines, mechanical items, is heat.
Always heat.
So my second All Road, I had the original turbos on it when I sold it. That had 380,000 kilometers when I sold it on the original turbos.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I put a lot of kilometers on it. And in my opinion, the reason they lasted so much longer is because I did the mods I did. So circling back to where we started, the three things that are unreliable, the suspension, the transmission, the turbos, there's all a way to solve those issues.
Yes.
And now we come to present day, the All Road that I currently own. It's got 370,000 kilometers on the clock. And by no means are those easy kilometers.
Yep.
I often take my All Road off-road. I tow with it almost every week,
Yep.
whether that's a trailer, snowmobiles, dirt bike, my other cars.
Yes.
I've towed with my All Road.
Nice.
There's always stuff in the car. When I was in school, all my friends would be in the car. That car has not lived an easy life. And being tuned, it's got larger turbos, exhaust, intake, all that. It's not running, down the highway 40 kilometers by a grandmother to work.
No.
It's being used.
Yes.
And-
as it should be.
Abused.
And major failures, I haven't had on this car.
Huh. Okay.
You've had lots of incidents with this car, but no major failures, eh?
The largest failure I've had is fuel pump.
Okay.
The fuel pump went, and obviously you can't drive.
No,
if your fuel
no,
pump's
no,
not
no.
working. Now, I wouldn't say that that's an issue specific to all roads. Every vehicle, GM,
Yeah.
you hear me,
Yes.
have fuel pump issues.
Yeah.
GM.
Suspension, as I mentioned earlier, is the original. Never once had any suspension issues with the car.
Well, you did swap over the suspension.
I did. Yeah.
Because was the factory stuff that was on it not good anymore?
The factory stuff on this one was working fine, but I know that I have lifetime warranty on this set from
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
old car,
aftermarket.
so
yeah.
I transferred that.
Made sense.
Yeah. Well, you could probably sell the factory. Did you sell the factory?
Yeah. Well, I transferred them to my old car and then sold the old car.
Perfect.
So,
there we go.
Makes sense.
So yeah, all road, it's very unreliable, but there's ways to work around it. And if you do those workarounds, it's, as you might recognize from a Top Gear episode, the most unreliable car in the world is the most reliable car in the world.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story.
Top Gear.
Last year, or every year, I go to West Virginia dirt biking.
Yes.
It's a 9-10 hour drive, depending how many times you stop.
Yes.
Okay.
I think I know this story.
We drove down in my dad's R class. I go with my dad and my friends. His R class breaks on the way.
Yeah.
We try fixing it down there. It's not working out. I call someone. The only vehicle at home that can tow is the All Road. Okay. Drive the All Road 9 hours to West Virginia. No hiccups. Hook up the trailer. 4 dirt bikes on the trailer. Each dirt bike's roughly 300 pounds plus 1,000 pounds for the trailer. Do the math. Tow it 9-10 hours home. But for those that have been in and around West Virginia, it's not flat.
No. You're going through the mountains. You're going through Appalachia, right?
Very hilly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so stick shift, I'm in 6th gear, bottom of the hill, floor it. On my car, the boost creeps up to 17, 18, 19, 20 PSI.
Uh-oh.
The hills aren't short. You're on
Yeah.
a hill for multiple minutes going up. Boost holding 21 PSI. Speed steady. Up the hill, up the hill, up the hill. We crest. You let off the gas. You can feel the car relaxing. I've made it. The next hill comes.
It's
Same thing.
It's like the suspense.
The boost creeps up. The car's, shaking,
Oh, come on.
makes it to the crest, relaxes. And it does that for one hill, a second hill, third hill, and we make it home.
Uh,
The most unreliable car in the world was the most reliable
Reliable
car in the
car.
world.
I had that similar experience. It wasn't with a car, but I used to drive a water truck. So the truck would be filled with water, and one time the engine just wasn't operating right, and I'm going up this massive hill, and I'm loaded with it would have been like 3,000 pounds of just water in the tank, and I'm like getting up to I'm like 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 10, and the crest of the hill is just right there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if my brakes fail right now, or like if my transmission goes, everybody behind me is done. Like, I'm gonna go flying so fast down this hill. Finally, the engine shuts off, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to hold it with like the e-brake. And like, what happened is I actually ran out of gas trying to go up that hill. So I have to like hold the truck with the e-brake and make sure it doesn't fall. And like, I got out of the truck and was like, everybody get out of the way. Like, I got to roll back down. Like, this is going to be nuts. So I had to put it in neutral and just roll the thing all the way down. And there was a gas station at the end of it. But it was like insane. So I understand that suspense.
yeah.
And
Mine was definitely a little more dangerous. But
that's a
Yeah.
cool part of being a car guy is that
yeah.
as weird as it sounds, you form some kind of relationship with your vehicle.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
you overcome those obstacles, there's a feeling inside you that it's hard to explain.
Oh, yeah.
I want to touch on one point though, just because there's a similar number here. So your All Roads in 04, right?
Yes.
And you've done lots of trips, and I'd say it's pretty high mileage at this point, right?
Yep.
Like when someone hears like a All Road with 370,000 K, it's pretty high.
Oh, yeah.
That's I actually have a beat on mileage in my Jetta. I'm at 373 K,
Nice. TDI.
but an '09.
Wow.
So I got a few. How many? That's 5 years on you. No, yeah, 5 years on you.
Yeah, but you drive highway. You drive like clean, nice, straight roads. He drives like crazy
Well,
off-roading.
I'd say your mileage was definitely tougher on your transmission because of the towing and stuff. But one key thing in the Jetta is I have launch control,
nice.
and
Nice.
every light, at least once a month, you got to test if the launch control still works. So it's definitely not easy mileage on that car either.
The concept of the Italian tune-up,
Exactly.
It's
It
a
makes
thing.
sense.
Oh, yeah.
it's a thing.
It's after a long highway drive when I'm just going, my steady, 100 or the speed limit on the highway, averaging my 3.8 liters per 100 kilometers. I get off on some like the side streets. It's like I got to get all that black smoke that's built up in my totally existing catalytic converters. And
For the
clear it up.
OPP watching.
MTO.
Oh,
Yeah, same thing though.
the OPP would also care if you coal rolled them.
I'm not going to reveal my secrets here. I'll tell you some of my secrets afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's crazy because like you think of that all road, that's pretty high mileage. But then when I mention that it's a TDI, they're like, it's barely broken in, right? It's
Yeah,
crazy
that's
the
true.
disparity in between the two, right?
It is,
So,
yeah. And, part of that comes with the fuel it burns. The diesels have a reputation of surviving longer than gasoline
Everything.
vehicles.
Mhm.
But
And-
yeah, and those, like that story I told, I have multiple of those stories.
Definitely.
The towing, I think, or I know what the heaviest load I've towed is. One of my other vehicles I own and drive is a 1982 Cadillac sedan DeVille with a 5.7 diesel V8.
A DeVille. Holy smokes.
Which on 2 occasions I towed on a flatbed trailer with the All Road to the garage that I worked on them in. 30 kilometers or so. One time was through the city, one time was on the highway, on the air suspension, and the car made it. Nothing broke. Everything was good. Once again, the most unreliable car in the world. It's the most
It's the
reliable
most
car.
reliable one.
Now, disclaimer, modified all-road. I have upgraded brakes in the front, upgraded brakes in the rear, fresh suspension, more power than stock, trailer,
Upgraded
Great.
turbos.
upgraded turbos. Granted, the trailer did not have trailer brakes, but that's why you upgrade your brakes in your
Yeah.
vehicle.
Yeah.
So
If you plan on keeping a car or keeping a type of car, you should always just upgrade everything. Every time I had a friend who told me every time he replaced something, he wouldn't replace it, he would upgrade it.
Yeah, that's typically
Basically.
that's my analogy with the Jetta, right?
If anything breaks, you get something better next time you replace it.
Yeah, so
Right,
I
so-
went from TDI brakes to basically GLI brakes all around when it was time to do them. So upgraded the brakes, went to, track pads and rotors. Suspension went out. Two of my rear springs broke. Air suspension time, right? Get the best of all worlds, and other things. It's when my seats were starting to wear out. I'm not gonna put factory seats in. I got Audi A5 S-Line seats in there now, right? Always an upgrade.
Yeah.
I think the one exception of that was the dual mass flywheel in my car. Everyone said to go single mass to avoid the issues of replacing again. But if my original dual mass flywheel did 370,000 kilometers, I think I can put another dual mass OEM one in and not worry about it for another 370,000 kilometers.
Well, we'll
now,
see.
what is the consensus on that flywheel when you increase the power?
Apparently the flywheels were overbuilt in those, right? So it was fine. I've heard that if I did go like bigger injectors, that I risk slipping. But that's at that point it's the clutch packs, right?
Correct.
But the DSGs, like the first gen DSGs, were overbuilt, minus the Megatronic unit, which in mine was replaced under the Dieselgate warranty.
Nice.
So brand new Megatronic unit, and everything was checked, refilled. So I was quite happy with that. So, not to mention, I think my TDI has an LSD in it as well, which is extremely difficult to find. And the only other transmission with an LSD that I found, DSG 225 or whatever.
Stock?
Stock.
Oh.
Stock.
Okay.
It was very limited. Very
Yeah, yeah.
limited. Only the 08s had them, but they were like 09s.
An
right?
LLSD. Limited slip
Yeah,
differential.
limited slip differential. The trans is $2,500.
Wow.
So if this trans goes, it is it is. I'm not sinking that deep into the ship again. So
Yeah.
that's why I decided to do the flywheel. Although, even my flywheel story, they say right when it starts chattering, it's a sign for replacement. I did about almost 70,000, no, 50,000 kilometers on a chattering flywheel. Took it off, and I was like, I could have done another 20.
Yep.
but I had people saying that, hey, they can hear it. It's time to replace it. Time to go. So, you do it for peace of mind. You love the car. It's time to do. Actually, I had that flywheel sitting around for almost a year. But there's a whole other story with that too.
Volkswagen Audi group unite, because
Yes.
I had almost the same situation.
Did you?
Dual mass flywheel, chattering, drove it, was fine.
Yeah.
I only replaced it when I upgraded power, and I chose a single mass route.
Oh, did you? Did you go single? But that's on your manual trans, right?
Yep.
That's on your manual trans. Yeah, it makes more sense. Like for the DSG, I didn't want to mess too much with it, because the kit is a little bit more than just throwing on a single mass, right? There's other things you need to change. You apparently might need to adjust the clutch packs or other stuff. And I was like, you know what, $370K, I'm happy.
Yep.
If it does another $370K, I will be very happy with this car. Right? That means it's done way over $500,000. So
Yes.
that's like what 760K, something like that, or whatever. No, 740K, right? If I do another 370,000K. So
The single mass is nice, except for off-roading.
it's very heavy, isn't it? It's heavier.
So the
the
single mass
it's
is
light.
lighter.
It
light-
revs very easily.
Revs very easily.
Mm.
Also stalls very easily.
Yes.
Combined with stage 3 clutch, south bend clutch,
Oh.
which is a heavy clutch.
That's what, what we were driving, and I was like, man, you're not going heavy on the clutch, right? But that explains it. Flywheel is spinning like no tomorrow, and your clutch is heavy as heck.
It
Yeah.
is.
That makes it difficult. That's why you can shift that thing hard, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I typically don't, but you can if you want.
Yeah, yeah. Talking about reliability on the all roads, you have there's another Pona. There's another cousin that apparently tried to make an all road even more reliable by what was it, ridding of that 2.7?
Yep, that is one route that many Europeans follow.
But I think that was a factory option. In Europe, the all road came with a diesel, right?
It did. So depending on where it was sold with a 2.5 V6
Uh-huh.
TDI, or it was sold with a 1.9 four-cylinder.
They put the PDs in those?
They did. I can't tell you where, but you look on Wikipedia, you'll find them.
Oh my God, I can't believe someone would drive a PD powered one.
And one of the most common diesel swaps is the 2-liter TDI,
Yeah.
longitudinal.
But not the
Horizontal.
CRs, common rails?
No, not the common
The
rails.
the still
pump
PDs.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
the ones that were sold here in the Passat, the B5 Passat.
Oh, the same thing that basically the Pona Alex has
Yeah.
in his Jeep.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
So
You know what? I'm curious. Are people really scared of the common rails? Like I'm a common rail enthusiast, and I still see a lot of people love the PDs for the reliability. But the common rails are great too, aren't they? I don't know. Maybe you just haven't had the experience with them, have you? Oh, wait, your commander has a common rail.
my command, yes.
So another topic, because you've already gone over two of your cars. What's your third car?
So I have 3 cars: all-road, diesel Cadillac, and diesel Jeep Commander. Now, following the theme of I like to have what other people don't, the Cadillac was sold with a 5.7 diesel engine.
Yeah.
Not a lot of them were made. They weren't known to be a good engine. Even less of them survive today. The Jeep Commander in Canada and the States was not sold with a diesel engine. It had
Uh-huh.
a 3.7 V6 gas, 4.7 V8 gas, 5.7 Hemi V8 gas. The Grand Cherokee of the same year
Yeah.
was sold with a 3-liter diesel engine.
A Mercedes derived one too.
Correct. OM642. In Europe, the Commander was sold with that same engine.
Yep.
Same with Australia. So the swap, bolt in. Take it out of
Yes.
the Grand Cherokee, bolt it in the Commander. Transmission, take it out of one, put it in the other. Wiring harness, ECU, take it out of one, bolt it in the other.
Everything just connected? Body modules and everything?
That simple.
Oh my goodness. I thought it was more complicated than that.
Every mounting point was present.
Wow.
Everything lined up. No tuning required.
Man, that's awesome.
You have to do your research to make sure that your donor vehicle is a direct candidate.
Yeah. Well, not all of them were then, I assume, huh?
It gets quite in depth. Even your engine wiring harness,
Mm-hmm.
your headlights, your taillights are all interconnected in that harness.
I was going to say the body modules affect a lot there, because I know anything Mercedes, I know it was Daimler Chrysler at one point, so they had a lot of interdependencies, right, or correlations. But anything Benz touched, it was like body modules wazoo, right?
Yep. So the Commander and the Grand Cherokee both had to have HID headlights. They had to have the same nav unit, the same gauge cluster, meaning like the readouts. One
Yeah.
gauge cluster, the lower package, red dials, the higher package,
Yeah.
white dials. If everything matches, it's a direct
Wow.
swap, which mine was.
Man, that is
And I drive it to this day.
Jesus.
sounds like butter smooth.
Very smooth.
Wow.
A lot of work, a lot of transferring, especially Chrysler vehicle, lots of rust.
Oh, was it pretty rotten?
Yeah. Mine, I did more as a proof of concept,
Yeah.
which it passed. But because of that, it was cheap to buy. There was rust. Luckily, the Commander's American vehicles have a lot of plastic cladding on the body,
Yeah.
which covers the rust. So you look at it, you don't see any rust.
Mm-hmm.
But you open the doors. Where are the rockers?
Yes. That sounds like the Subaru Baja.
Yep.
You open the rear doors and there's just, there's the rear tire.
Yep.
So, yeah, what an adventure. So as we can tell, the Ponas have quite a history of putting diesels where they typically, in their opinion, belong, you could say, right? Maybe the
agree.
manufacturer doesn't agree that they belong in that car in this country, but the Ponas come to prove a point that they do.
The all road is gas and it's going to stay gas. Gas cars have a charisma all to themselves. Being able to rev it out, the sound they make, it is unique. And diesel can't live up to those points.
Yeah.
The Commander, when it was a Hemi V8, there's something about a V8 sound that you can't argue with.
Yeah.
Fuel economy, that's another story.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you guys will cover on another podcast another day.
Yes.
But the Commander, but when it was the V8, even with the cylinder deactivation working on the highway, the best average I got was 17, 16 liters
Oh my
per 100
gosh.
kilometers. The diesel gets sub 10.
Crazy difference.
Big difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
City is even more. So that is the primary reason why I
You
like
did
the
this well.
diesels.
So I think on that bombshell is where we'll finish off this part 2 of the Pona family podcast.
Stay tuned for part 3.
Stay tuned for part 3. We
Yeah.
will. I already spoke with Arthur. Arthur said that he wants to be on the podcast. But Greg, we appreciate having you here. So thank you so much for
Thank you, Alex.
your reliable, unreliable car knowledge. And if you want to buy an Audi All Road, I guess you know what to do, and you can get Greg's blessing before you pull that trigger.
If you spend a little bit of money, treat it well. It'll be the best car you ever own.
8 years.
And
On that
and going strong.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to this week's Parts and Pistons, and we'll see you in the next episode. Have a great night.
See ya.
Remember, Parts Avatar has got your back, so don't forget to subscribe to the Parts Avatar channel so you don't miss any of these exciting videos.